So the challenge for us was, well, it wasn't, well, there's other challenges, but as Marianne said, when she came in and she was kind of describing what she thought this welcome house would be, and she was throwing out certain terms like the cube, and she wanted a porch, and so that there was these certain elements that were just, so these images were kind of flashing in my head about how they how they might come together. So, sorry. So this is basically what the cube is going to be. The idea is that during the day, one of the walls will open up to create a porch outside to offer shade, as well as to kind of be a flag to let people know that there is interaction. And I think one of the challenges was to how do you create an architecture that is both present and gets people's attention, and yet allows the performer, whoever is actually going to be inside, to actually be the center of attention. So it needs to be there and both not be there. So that's kind of what we were trying to work with. So what this cube is there's it's basically two C's that are interlocking, and one's the transparency, and one's more of an opaque C. And part of that opaque C obviously opens up to create the door. And we really look forward to what these 10 artists are going to do, because we have really no idea how they're going to occupy the space and how they're going to use it. And so I really look forward to seeing how that happens. And so basically what's going to happen at night is that the cube is going to be wrapped in spandex, and there'll be pylons that we're working with Ricardo Rivera from the Clip Collective, and he's going to be orchestrating kind of the projections that happen at night. So there'll be basically two different projections on the two sides or two of the four sides will have projections on them. So, and I'm actually going to hand it over now to Brian Phillips to talk about more of what we do at Interface.
I was actually kind of excited. We never get to talk to non-architectural audiences, and that's a compliment, by the way. I don't want you to take that wrong. There's a certain vocabulary and way of talking about things that's very refreshing to come in to sort of talk about it in a new way. And I was kind of racking my brain a little bit about how we could contribute to a kind of memoir documentary environment. And I think, as urbanists and people that work in the city, as architects, we really care about context, and I think we like to think that a lot of our work pulls stories out of the urban fabric and represents them in buildings. So I'm going to try to talk about 3 projects that maybe speaks kind of in that way about the work. This is kind of a forerunner maybe to the Welcome House. I mean, at some level we kind of see the Welcome House as an object that sort of takes on information from the city. And last year at a clean break, which was near this building on Broad Street, which had to do with modular construction methods, we sort of built this outdoor theater, which was meant to sort of project ideas about sort of vacant land in Philadelphia and ways we can build things to kind of take up that land. So this was our sort of initial sketch for that piece. This was sort of the subject matter of the piece, was really dealing with what we do with the 15,000 vacant lots we have all over Philadelphia. This is what we built, which was kind of a series of frames that became seating. And then we sort of projected, not unlike the Welcome House, I guess, sort of our sort of work, a kind of slideshow narrative within that theater. We actually built it in a warehouse in Kensington, and it got trucked out to Broad Street in pieces. And so this is what it looked like on site at a clean break. What's actually we find kind of more compelling about this story is it went back to a warehouse in Kensington after this 1-week event, and we were sort of talking to kind of a local CDC. And said it'd be great to land this in public space somewhere and people can just use it. And so it now exists at Frankfurt Avenue and Susquehanna. And actually it's been really amazing to watch what they call the Caterpillar, sort of booked on Friday nights by bands. You actually see a sort of drum kit back there in the old theater we had on Broad Street. And there's been really crazy stuff going on in this thing, and we've been really happy to see it kind of gradually sort of disintegrating on a vacant lot in Philly in a really good way. Just really quickly, I'm just going to show you a couple images of buildings that maybe are kind of provocative in this sort of narrative way. I think our work largely is about kind of reading urban fabric, doing something to the story, and then amplifying it through a building. So this is actually, this was our first project. It's in Northern Liberties. It's a 10-unit condo building. And these are some of the diagrams we use to talk about context, right? So we like to look at photographs of the existing condition. And here we were looking at a kind of way to make a big building fit into a neighborhood that's essentially townhouses. So you kind of see this recognition of the townhouse sort of vertical strip marching down the street, and then our building, despite the fact that it's large, which in Northern Liberties, as you know, there's this coexistence of lots of different kinds of scales. So really trying to read the fabric in a very specific way. And then also the materiality of the building, I think, taking on a lot of combining houses and warehouses and sort of other things into one palette of materials. We sometimes use, we really like the phrase urban camouflage as this way of thinking about aggressive buildings that live comfortably in an existing fabric. Because Philadelphia is a red brick city, and architects know that sort of better than anyone else. So experimenting with new innovative materials is always a challenge. But this is one way that I think we were doing that. And so this is actually the back of the building, which I kind of prefer, because the neighborhood was a little more friendly with what we did in the back and the front. But I think there's really a kind of recognition of the sort of forms and surfaces of the neighborhood, both on the outside with a kind of cementitious sort of panel system and some metal panel, and then the inside of the building really was inspired by the kind of loft warehouse spaces in Northern Liberties. And this is new construction, so we were really trying to sort of evoke a sort of new kind of living space. And this is the roof, which has this phenomenal, this is actually turf. It's very hard to see in the photo, but we basically took the open space and kind of put it on the roof. So there's a 3,500 square foot grass roof, and the elevator goes up to it, and all 10 units share it with the condo association. Just quickly, this is the renovation of a 1797 townhouse in Society Hill. Very simple one-liner, which was sort of modern life is the kitchen and the bathroom, and our idea was to embalm the history, let it do its thing, and then insert modern life. And this diagram really talks about sort of preserving the mantle, and we were really hoping to preserve the window casings and the trim that all had to come out because the building was so structurally unsound. But you can see in our early sort of playful montages of really sort of respecting the existing windows and the mantle and inserting new modern objects into the space. Right, so that's sort of the result, right? Is this, and you can see that unfortunately a lot of all the crown molding came out, and I try to imagine this with all that other stuff weighted out and still there. But it is really fun to kind of look at sort of colonial Society Hill out these windows and yet still have the modern space inside. Wow.